Games Master Advice number 9. Making time versus having time, and a little bit on the Mercer effect. Well, that should really go in the description, doesn't matter. So making versus having time. Now, what I'm talking about there is making versus having time to prep your game, and how much prep you actually need to do. So I am massively a world builder, primarily. That is my Games Master style. I like to construct a world, have a few story plots, and then just let my players run free in it. Not necessarily as a full sandbox, basically giving them a clear defined quest, overarching enemy that they will eventually be aiming for. So in my Dungeons & Dragons 1E campaign, their quest is to prepare for the war in Torqueval. In my 5e campaign, it's very individual. Each character has their own quest. So Lenny the Big Gay Orc is see the world, Arahiri is get home, the Halfling Paladin is find the treasures, and the Tiefling is find herself. Sorry, the Tiefling Sorceress. So it's a very personal one, that one. To be honest, the making versus having time thing really comes into what you're actually doing. So if you are a forever DM that's kind of forced into it, like really you want to be a player, you have to have the time to prep. And you might do a few minimal things, just get a few bits prepped, go into the game. That is very much how I used to do it. If you are a DM who likes DMing and wants to tell a specific story, then you tend to find you can make time. And when you make time for prepping, you don't... It's not like when you have time, it's not like you almost start to resent the world building and the prep time, so you just give up. You're actually having fun. I have found so much fun in actually prepping the game. It's incredible. I tend to have a notebook. I tend to have a notebook next to me anyway as a writer anyway. But honestly, having Dungeons & Dragons at the moment has been fantastic for me, because I've hit so much of a writer's block and just a massive log in my own writing, that having Dungeons & Dragons and RPGs and being able to tell a story in kind of piecemeal is really helping me kind of come to terms with my own writing. So it's been a therapy for me as well. The little bit about the Matt Mercer effect, it comes into the having time versus making time. It's another thing about this. So there are a lot of, for want of a better word, professional games masters out there. So obviously Matt Mercer being the biggest one from Critical Role. There's Bacon Gaming, and obviously back when they were doing them, the guys over at Yogscast. There's obviously so many more. Just drop a link to your favourite professional D&D group, I suppose. I don't like the term professional games master. I really don't like it, because to me this is a hobby, and quite frankly it's something I want. That is a job that I want. I might look into that. That would be amazing. But no, in all seriousness, if you are in a position where you are being paid to do something, of course you have the time to do it. It's your job. That's why Matt Mercer can create such vivid and amazing worlds and so many fantastic plot points. It's also why his sessions never go longer than 4 hours, with a break in the middle. Okay, as someone who's been playing role-playing games since I was like 9, and then playing them properly since I was 16, and GMing them since I was about 17, so we're talking about, realistically, probably about 10 years of experience, just over 10 years of actual role-playing experience, where I'm doing it properly. Before that, I'd call it a bit silly, so let's call it 15 years, split the difference. 4 hours for a role-playing game sounds like a lot, until you're the kind of person that starts a game at 2 o'clock in the afternoon and doesn't finish until 4 o'clock in the morning, where you are all half drunk, sat around watching Hot Fuzz, discussing what the fuck happened there. And that was my life through college. We would meet up once a week, either go to mine or my friend Rob's house, and we would play Dungeons and Dragons or RuneQuest, depending on which one of us was GMing, and we would sit down and we would not stop playing until the first of us was starting to drop dead from exhaustion. And that was fun. That was a lot of fun. A real endurance role-playing game session. I've realised it kind of comes in with my... It's a bit of a bad habit that I have, and it is something that comes in my games mastering style, because since I've been running the D&D 1E campaign now, we have played from about 4 o'clock in the afternoon and have finished at 2 o'clock in the morning before. And this is a group of people in their late... Well, I'm the only one in my late 20s, everyone else is in their 30s. So it'll be interesting to see how this continues. So that's kind of what I want to say on making time versus having time, and a little bit about Matt Mercer and Matt Mercer effect. And to be honest, the effect of professional GMs on the role-playing game community. It has had a lot of negative aspects, but I personally don't blame any one games master or any one group for that. I think the groups themselves are absolutely fantastic and have given a lot of light to a hobby that has never been out of the limelight, but is now coming into style. So we are now getting a lot of people getting into it brand new, and it's us as veteran players that need to educate those players, those newer players, that not every campaign is going to be Critical Role. Not every campaign is going to have party romance or fleshed out NPCs or epic shopping episodes. Honestly, I find voicing every single NPC who is a shop attendant quite tiresome, actually. I have them all written up for my 1E campaign, and I have some written up for my 5E campaign. And there are some I do quite like role-playing, like my Dwarven Artificer, who works at the Forge. He was quite fun to play as. I quite like Clive over at the Necrane Blackspire, and I have been enjoying role-playing as a couple of other characters who will crop up. So Richter and Claude from the 5e campaign so far. But then when I start role-playing as Jessica from the pawn shop, or as the bank teller in Torgaval, eventually they all kind of mish together. So having those long drawn-out shopping episodes, like what Matt Mercer does, can be quite exhausting for a GM. So I think what a lot of these new players need to understand is not only do they're not the only ones there to have fun, and the way that Matt Mercer role plays is very good for him because he's a professional voice actor. He can keep the characters and personalities very different. Most of us, in fact, all of us bar a few, are not professional voice actors. Many of us are not even amateur voice actors. I am not a voice actor. I have this voice, and I have some voices that are basically just strained versions of my own voice. I find women's voices very difficult to do. Dwarves' voice is quite easy. Some voices I can do quite well, like a Texan accent, things like that. But we are all different in our system, and coming into a game thinking that it's going to be like Critical Role, like Vox Machina or the Mighty Nine, is not healthy, and you are not going to have fun. So that is on the player to understand realistic expectations, but it is also on us as veteran players and veteran games masters to educate these people, because we want people to be playing these games. So, sorry that turned into a bit of a rant, but thank you very much. See you next video.